They came from the deep void beyond the stars, silent, unseen. No lights, no sound, only shadows moved where nothing should. They ruled the night. Darkness was their home, their weapon, their shield. To them, humans were easy prey. After all, humans feared what they could not see. Every culture, every story, warned of monsters in the dark. That fear had always been real, until now these beings landed on Earth under the cover of night. Their movements were fast, their attacks sudden. Cities went dark, one by one. People vanished without a trace. Governments denied it, scientists ignored it. But the truth crept through whispers and missing persons reports. Then something changed. A small town in Eastern Europe went silent. No survivors, no signs of struggle. Only one thing was found carved into a wall. "We see you now." It wasn't just words. It was a warning. Unseen eyes watched as the creatures returned to the shadows. But this time, they were not alone. Hidden in the dark, far from light, a group waited. Not soldiers, not heroes, something new. Trained in silence, built for the night. They didn't run, they didn't hide, they hunted, and they were ready. As the last scream faded into blackness, a single signal was sent across the world. Operation Nightfall is live. The darkness was no longer safe for them, it was about to become their grave. The world still believed the dark was a place of fear, but in secret labs, far from public eyes, a new kind of soldier was being born. They trained in total blackness. No lights, no noise, only sound of their breath and steady heartbeats. These warriors learned to move without sound, to fight without sight, to kill without mercy. Humanity had watched the enemy for years, studied their ways, copied their tech, built weapons that made no sound, wore suits that gave off no heat, eyes trained to see in shadows where nothing should be seen. When the creature struck again, they expected silence and fear. What they got was something else: a forest in Canada, a deep cave system in Russia, an abandoned city in Africa. The enemy moved in, sure of their power. But each time, they left something behind, one of their own. Not dead, not alive, just gone. Rumors spread among them. Something followed them now, something worse than light. It didn't scream, it didn't run. It waited in hidden bases across the globe, screens lit up with real-time data. Missions were marked complete with just one word: taken. No one knew who these hunters were. Some said they were soldiers. Others believed they were ghosts. But one thing was clear: humanity had stopped fearing the dark. Now they owned it. And as the night grew deeper, the message came through once more: Operation Nightfall continues. The hunt was only beginning. T began with silence. No screams, no alarms, no signs of struggle, just nothing. One moment, they were there. The next, gone. The enemy didn't understand at first. They thought it was a mistake, a few missing scouts, a lost patrol. But then it kept happening. In the forests of Norway, a group entered under cover of night. None returned. In the ruins of an old city in Asia. A scouting team vanished without a trace. Even their sensors couldn't find them. No heat, no sound, no signal. Fear started to spread among them. Not the fear of pain or death, but something deeper. The fear of being hunted by something they could not see or understand. Back on Earth, the world still slept, unaware of the war unfolding in the shadows, but underground in hidden bases. The truth was clear. Humans were no longer running. They were taking the fight to the dark. Every mission ended the same way. The enemy disappeared, and new data came in. Their tech, their movements, their weaknesses. All collected, studied, and used. Then came the message that changed everything. A single voice, speaking their language, echoed through their comms. You are not alone anymore. That's when they knew the hunters weren't just watching, they were inside their minds, and now the dark belonged to humanity. Operation Nightfall was no longer a secret. It was a warning. We spoke their language. With silence, they thought they were alone in the dark. They were wrong. The message spread like fire through their ranks. You are not alone anymore. It wasn't just words. It was proof that someone, something, had broken into their systems, their signals, their language, their world. Humanity hadn't just learned to fight in the dark, they had learned to think like them, from hidden bases and silent war rooms. Humans used stolen tech to send fake signals. They created false movements, fake battles, and ghost armies that never existed. The enemy chased shadows while real hunters closed in. Then came the psychological strikes in deep space listening posts. Strange sounds began to play. Voices of their own kind, screaming, not in pain, but in feared recordings of their fallen comrades begging for mercy, crying out in the dark. Was it real or just a trick? It didn't matter. Doubt took root, and doubt bred panic. One by one, their outposts went silent, not destroyed, not burned, just empty dot back on Earth. Screens lit up with new mission reports. Mission silent echo, complete. Target taken, no resistance. We used their fear against them. Fear had always been their weapon. Now, it was humanity's. The enemy knew something had changed. They could feel it in the silence, hear it in the emptiness, smell it in the cold air of their abandoned outposts. They were being watched, but not by eyes, by intent. Every move they made was predicted. Every plan was broken before it began. It was as if the darkness itself had turned against them. Humanity had captured one of their own, not dead, but alive. And from him, they learned everything: weaknesses, language, tactics, fears. And that's when the real war began. Psychological warfare hit harder than bullets. Messages played on loop in their hidden bases. You are not safe. We are inside. You run all you want. We see you now. Lights flickered with no power source. Screens showed images of their fallen comrades, not screaming in pain, but whispering in fear. Some said it was just tricks. Others weren't so sure. Then came the nightmares, not dreams. Real sounds, real voices. Recorded and played back in perfect detail. The screams of their own kind echoed through tunnels, forests, and even deep space stations. Doubt grew, panic followed, and soon they started turning on each other. Back at human command, mission reports kept coming. Target broken. Enemy morale collapsing. Operation Mindfall success. One soldier whispered to another as they watched the data roll in. We didn't beat them with weapons, we beat them with fear. And somewhere in the dark, a creature curled into a corner, shaking not from cold, but from terror, because now they knew what it felt like to be hunted. Voice match confirmed. Enemy fear level high. A new weapon had been born, not made of steel or fire, but of silence and fear. And as night fell once more, a final message appeared on every captured signal. Now you know what it feels like. The war had changed. The dark no longer hid them. Now it whispered their names. The hunt was on. They were no longer the predators. Now they were the prey. The silence had become their enemy. The shadows, once their refuge, now hid something far deadlier. Humanity had learned their ways, stolen their secrets, and turned the night into a weapon. Now it was time to use it. Across the world, coordinated strikes began. Not with loud explosions or bright lights, but with precision. A hidden base in Antarctica vanished overnight. A deep-sea facility in the Pacific went dark. An underground city beneath South America fell silent. No one saw it happen. Only the results remained: broken tech, empty rooms, and one message carved into walls, screens, and even armor. Asterisk, asterisk, you're not safe anymore. Asterisk, asterisk, human teams moved like ghosts. No noise, no light, just cold, calculated action. Traps were set in places the enemy thought unbreakable. Ambushes struck from directions they never expected. Every mission followed the same pattern: find, watch, strike, disappear. Back at command centers, reports came in faster than ever before. Asterisk, asterisk, target eliminated, intel recovered. Enemy movement confirmed, retreating. Asterisk, asterisk, for the first time. The creatures did something they had never done before. They ran, not in fear of death, but of being hunted in the only place they had ever felt safe. And as another signal lit up the dark, the message was clear. Asterisk, asterisk, nightfall is everywhere. The war was no longer about survival. It was about erasure. Asterisk, asterisk. Their last army arrived. The silence was broken. After weeks of disappearing bases, stolen tech, and rising fear, the enemy made their move. They had seen their forces fall one by one, their secrets stolen, their minds twisted. Now they sent what they hoped would end it all. A massive fleet descended from the sky, not in secret, not in silence, but with full force. Dozens of ships, dark and lifeless, touched down in remote locations across the globe. From them came thousands of warriors, stronger, faster, and more prepared than ever before. This was their final strike. They believed humanity would break under the weight of their power, that light would fall to darkness once more. But this time, they were expected deep beneath the earth, in hidden war rooms. Screens lit up with a single message: Operation Nightfall, Final Phase. Across the world, human forces moved into position, not with loud speeches or flags held high, but with quiet resolve. This was not about glory, it was about survival. In the frozen north, soldiers waited in ice-covered trenches. In deep jungles, traps were set in perfect silence. In abandoned cities, sniper teams watched from the shadows, and as the enemy began their march, thinking they had the advantage. The night exploded, not with noise, not with chaos, but with precision. Every attack was timed, every shot calculated. The enemy found themselves surrounded, outmatched, and hunted in every corner of the world. Back at command, reports came in fast. First wave neutralized. Enemy movement stalled. We have the upper hand. The creatures who once ruled the dark now found themselves trapped in it, and as the last ship landed, a signal was sent across the world. This is where your kind ends. The final battle had begun, and the night belonged to humanity. This is where legends are born. The night burned with silent fire. Not from flames or explosions, but from action, from purpose. Every soldier, every hunter, every mind behind Operation Nightfall knew what was at stake. This wasn't just a battle for survival. It was the moment that would be remembered. Long after the dark had faded, in the heart of the final battlefield, deep inside an enemy stronghold buried beneath the Arctic ice, a small team moved like shadows. No loud guns, no bright lights, just silence and will. They were not many, but they were enough. As they cut through security systems and bypassed traps, one message echoed in their ears: you are not alone. Behind them, across the world, other teams fought their own wars. Some in jungles thick with danger. Some in ruined cities where ghosts of the past whispered warnings. Some in space, fighting to keep the enemy from escaping. And then came the moment. Inside the enemy's core command center, a single leader stood tall, cold, unbroken. He had watched his kind fall, one by one. And now, he faced the end with empty eyes. One soldier stepped forward. Not the strongest, not the loudest, but the one who believed the most. A shot rang out not from him, from the enemy leader himself. He had chosen death over surrender. As his body fell, so did the last hope. Of his kind, back at command, a final signal lit up the screen. Operation Nightfall, victory. The war was over. The darkness was no longer theirs. It belonged to the brave, to the silent dot, to the ones who made legends. In the night, the cycle ends here. The war was over. But the silence it left behind was heavier than any battle. Across the world, screens flickered with the final reports. Enemy command destroyed. No further movement detected. Threat level 0. For the first time in years, the dark no longer carried their presence. No silent footsteps, no unseen eyes, no fear. Humanity had won. But victory came with questions. What now? There were no more enemies to hunt, no more shadows hiding threats, just the cold truth of what had been lost and what had been gained. In a hidden base beneath the ruins of an old city, one soldier stood alone in front of a glowing screen. His face was tired, his body worn, but his mind still sharp. He watched as data scrolled endlessly: logs, voices, recordings from the enemy's final days. And then something unexpected appeared. A message, not from a human, not from the past, but from the last known alien signal. Sent just before everything went dark, it read, "You have become what you feared." The soldier didn't move. He just stared at the words, letting them sink in, because deep down, he knew it was true. They had used fear. They had hunted in silence. They had erased an entire species. And now they stood alone in the dark, not as heroes, but as the new rulers of the night. As he turned off the screen, One last line blinked before disappearing forever. The cycle ends here, or begins again. Outside, the night stretched wide and endless, empty waiting, and somewhere, far beyond, the stars. Something else might be watching. Humanity owns the night the sun rose, but the night no longer feared it. Across the world, cities lit up one by one as life returned to normal. People woke up, unaware of how close they had come to silence, to darkness without end. But some knew, some remembered, in hidden bases and quiet corners of the world. Soldiers removed their gear for the first time in years, not in defeat, but in peace. But in peace, war had changed humanity. Not just what they could do, but what they would do. They had stared into the void, and instead of fear, they found strength. Instead of panic, they found purpose. Instead of running, they stood their ground and claimed the dark dot at a final meeting deep beneath the earth. One voice broke the silence. We didn't just survive the night. We became it above them. The sky turned from black to blue. But even in daylight, the truth remained. The night no longer hid monsters, now protected guardians, and as the message flashed across every screen, old and new, Operation Nightfall. Complete pause. Then one final line appeared. The dark is safe now, for now. Somewhere, far away, a distant star blinked, not once, but twice, as if watching, as if waiting, and maybe, one day, the night will call again.